I can't tell if it's working or not. Okay, I think it's finally working. Can you hear me now? Tell me. I feel like that the guy can you hear me now? Tell me in the comments if you can hear me. I'm so sorry. This, of course, it's like day one. My internet is being weird and Facebook is being weird, and that's how it goes, right? That's always how it goes. So tell me in the comments if you can hear me, first of all, and then also tell me where you're from. Um, I would love, thank you so much. Is it Viol? Is that how you say your name? Awesome. Crystal is here too. Thank you, Crystal. I appreciate that. Um, it's always the first day, right? That's when things are weird and nothing works right, and it's frustrating and aggravating, but we're here. We're only just a couple of minutes late. So thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully everybody will be able to find us, and hopefully Facebook will cooperate and we won't have any more problems. But if for some reason we do have more problems, like I said, my internet is being weird today, I'll restart the live stream if it drops. Hopefully it doesn't. Fingers and toes crossed. Violet, that's a beautiful name. I absolutely love it. Tell me in the comments where you guys are from. I know that a lot of people who follow me are from other parts of the world. I can see from like Instagram and Facebook from the analytics that like only half of the people who follow me are from the United States. I'm in the United States. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, which is in the northeastern part of the United States, almost all the way up to Canada. But I love it here. I'm actually from the Midwest, which is like basically right in the middle of the United States because I grew up in Kansas, and then I spent some time in North Carolina too, and now I call Boston home. So I'm really excited to get started with this challenge. I've been planning it for what seems like forever, and it's so exciting that it's finally here. Crystal is from Southern California. I bet it's gorgeous there. And Violet is from Mexico. Awesome. So throughout this challenge, we're going to be live all this week at noon Eastern time, which is 10 minutes before what time it is right now. But I want to take you on a journey, and I want to help you to be able to see yourself. I want to show you what's really possible. So as we get started, I want to ask you to just close your eyes for a second. And I want to ask you, what did you come here to hear? What message is it that you want to hear? What message does your soul need to hear right now? You can open your eyes. I want you to know that every part of you is welcome here. Everybody is welcome here. Wherever you are in the world, whether you're in the United States or you're somewhere else, everybody is welcome here. And every single part of you is welcome here as well. All the parts of you that you love, the parts of you that are brave, the parts of you that have made it through so much. We've made it through a pandemic, right? We're almost on the other side of it, I feel like. All of those parts of you that faced every single day, so brave, right? But all of the other parts of you are welcome too. All the parts that you feel like are broken, the parts that you feel like are messed up, the parts that you don't even want to admit that exists. All of those parts of you are welcome here. I really want this to be a safe space. I want it to be a place where we can all come together and recognize each other, and where you can feel loved, where you can feel accepted. The funny thing about love is that it's something that you're not supposed to have to earn, right? It's something that's just supposed to be freely given. And I want you to know that I really love you guys. I appreciate you so much, and I'm so glad that you show up for me and support me. It's one of the greatest blessings for me to be able to spend time with you and to share my gifts with you and to share that love with you as well. I want us to start with showing love to ourselves as well. That's that's really the main focus of these workshops, because that's where confidence comes from, is when you can start to show love to yourself. So I want you to put your hand on your heart for just a moment and really feel into that love and see if you can open your heart just a little bit. See if you can open it just maybe 10% more than what it was. And see if maybe you can send some of that love and that compassion to everyone out there, to all of the INFJs, to all of us who are a part of this group, who are part of our Facebook following and Instagram following. It seems like that's exactly what we need, right? We all want to feel seen and heard and loved. And one of the things that I want to do this week is to bring you back to who you really are, to who were you when you came into this world. It's such a magical thing that you're even here, right? That you're even actually a person. I think about so many people who have so many problems trying to have a baby. I know three of my friends who went through IVF. One of my friends who experienced multiple miscarriages, and just 2 years ago now, she lost a baby that should have lived, but for some reason the baby didn't. And I mean, that's just my current friends. I can name at least 10 other people that I know of personally who have experienced so many problems trying to have a baby. And me, myself, when I was born, my mom tells me this story that the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck, and that by the time I came out, I was actually blue. And my whole face was blue, and they were worried that I wasn't going to live. And so it's such a miracle that we're here. And I think that as we grow up, we tend to forget about these miracles, right? We stop when we're young, we believe in magic, right? A lot of us watch Disney movies, and we believe in like Tinkerbell and the pixie dust. But as we grow up, we stop believing in that magic. We stop seeing it so much. And as we grow up, we start to learn a bunch of things that really aren't true. We're sold a bunch of lies, and we're told things like, we'll be happy if we just have more money. You'll be happy if you just lose the weight. It's just 10 pounds, it's just 20 pounds, and like everything will be great in my life if I could just do that. You'll be happy if you have a nicer house or a nicer car. Those things will make you feel like you're actually worth it, right? But what truly makes us happy is when we come home to ourselves, when we forget what the world tells us, when we forget all of the marketing campaigns and all of the TV shows and the movies, and when we get back to being who we were before the world got a hold of us. And I feel so very honored to be the one to walk with you on this journey and to remind you of who you are, because the thing is that you already know. You already have this voice. Maybe it's a voice, maybe it's a whisper, maybe it's just kind of a little bit of pulling at certain times. It's telling you who you're supposed to be. It's telling you what you need to do. It's telling you exactly where you're supposed to be at. I don't know a single person that I've worked with who hasn't had that voice and who wasn't able to remember. So you're certainly not alone. This is a process that happens to so many people, but it's possible to get to the other side of it. It's possible to go through this transformation and to get to the other side, to remember who you were. And when you have that transformation, it's really this magical, amazing experience. And that's why I'm here, because I've had that experience myself, and I love doing this work. I love seeing other people have that transformation. That's why I'm here with you right now. That's why I'm doing these workshops. That's why I do my podcast every single week. That's why I write my blog. That's why I show up on Instagram so much. That's why I do coaching as well, because I love helping people. I love seeing the transformation. And I have so much to share with you, and I'm so positive that by the end of this week, you're going to feel this huge transformation. And you're going to feel like this has been an amazing use of your time. And that's why I'm doing it. I want you to feel filled up. I want you to feel, I want you to remember who you used to be, who you are supposed to be. And I'm positive that by the end of this week, you're going to have this amazing transformation, and you're going to hear what you needed to hear, and you're going to be good to go. And some of you, that will be all that you need, and you'll be ready to keep moving and to go it alone. But some of you might want to continue working with me and to take another step. And I will have an invitation for you. I have a signature program that I teach that's called This Is Me, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about that later. I created these workshops to live on their own, to give you a transformation in these 5 days. And you'll have a breakthrough. And not only is it really these 5 days, but there's actually this coming weekend, and then we're going to go through replays next week. So it's really more like 12 days if you want to show up for everything. So, which I hope that you do, because it's a lot of information, and sometimes you miss things the first time around, right? And so it's better to go back and to remember and to watch things a second time around. And plus, there'll be plenty of time for you to ask questions and to make sure that everything is super clear. So today we're going to talk about breaking the habit of being you. So many of us live in habits. We have the same habits that we've always had, even if we want to change, right? Even if you're miserable in the job that you have, you keep going back to that job because you need to get paid, right? But it's a habit. Even if you need to lose weight and you know that you want to lose weight and it's on your mind all of the time, but you keep eating the same food and you keep laying on the couch after work instead of going to work out because it's a habit. And even though you're miserable, you stay in that habit. 95% of what we do is a habit. We don't even have to think about it. If you think about driving to work, if you think about taking a shower or brushing your teeth, it's not something that you really think about. You don't even have to look at where the toothbrush is, right? Because you could just reach for it because you know exactly where it's at. It never changes. Not only do we have habits like that, we also have habits with the way that we think. There are things that are ingrained into our head that we always think, even if we know that they're not true, if we consciously know that they're not true. Unconsciously, we rehearse these things to ourselves over and over and over again. So if you think about when you were young, from the ages of 0 to 8, our brain is like a sponge. It just soaks up every single thing that we're told. We wire certain thoughts and patterns in our minds at that time. And it's really, I mean, when you think about it, it's really like kind of unfair because a lot of us don't even remember that time, right? There are very few memories that I have from the ages of 0 to 8. So when I went back to think about like what happened to me during that time that caused me to think the way that I think now, I can't even remember most of it. But this is the time when we learn so many of the stories that run through our heads for the rest of our lives because we're so impressionable. When I was young, I was very, very shy. My mom tells me these stories about how I used to hide behind her when people would try to talk to me because I didn't want to talk to anybody. One of the few memories that I have, I must have been, I think my little sister was born, so I must have been maybe 4 or 5 years old at the time. My mom worked at this church, and there was a boy there who was probably like a teenager. And like I said, I was only like 4 or 5. So he used to pick me up, and I remember him picking me up, and he would like squeeze my cheeks and, do the whole baby talk thing, like, oh, you're so cute, look at your chubby little cheeks. And I hated it. So I would like try to get away from him, and I remember like trying to slap his hands away. And I remember my mom telling me to stop, like be nice to him, right? And even at that young age, I didn't understand why she was telling me to be nice to him, because it's like he's hurting my cheeks because he's like squishing my cheeks, and I don't like that. So why do I have to be nice to him if he's doing that, right? But there were so many things like that I was told when I was young. I was told things like, you're too quiet, you need to speak up more. And this is especially true when I got into grade school. There was always a little note. My mom recently gave me my report cards. She kept like stuff from every single year that I was in school. And so I was going through it because I was putting it all in a scrapbook. And on pretty much every single report card that I got throughout the years, there was a note that said, like, Sarah's a great student, but she doesn't participate enough in class. She needs to speak up more. And it's like, that's been a thing since forever. But I was always told, you're too quiet. You need to speak up more. I was told that I needed to have more friends, that, I need to be more friendly. I was told that I needed to go outside and play with the kids rather than sit inside and read. And as I grew up, it got a little bit worse. The farther that you get along in school, you have all these group projects that you have to participate in. And as you get even older, you have to participate in things like job interviews and dating. And all of those things require you to be friendly. They require you to be a bit open, and they sort of require you to sell yourself. And because I had been told all of these things, I believed that I was wrong. I believed that there was something wrong with me, that it wasn't okay to be quiet, that it wasn't okay to be unpopular or to only have 1 or 2 friends. I believed that it wasn't okay for me to just be the way that I was, that I needed to change. And the more that I went along in life, those beliefs kept repeating themselves to me. And so every time I would do something that required me to have confidence in myself, every time that I would do something that required me to sell myself, like in a job interview or in dating, I couldn't do it because it was like, I don't believe in myself. I don't believe that I can do this job. I mean, I know that I can, like, I have the skills, but I don't know how to sell you on the fact that I can actually do this job. When people would, when I would write my resume, I like paid people to write a resume for me, and they would be like, okay, so you need to brag on yourself a little bit. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to do that. And they're like, well, what have you accomplished? And I'm like, nothing. I haven't really done anything. And they would be like, well, surely that's not true. Like, you've been working for 5 or 6 years now. Surely you've accomplished like even one big project. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, my mind is blank. There's nothing impressive about me, right? So somehow, in 2013, I got my dream job. I loved race cars, NASCAR specifically, and I had wanted for years to work in this industry. And so I was hired by a marketing company that managed race car drivers and sponsors, and I got to work around race cars. I got to go to the racetrack every single weekend, and that was exactly what I wanted. It was everything that I would have told you was perfect. And after a few months of working there, I realized that I was incredibly unhappy. My boss used to pull me into his office, and he would say things to me like, your work is amazing. It's like really, really good. But your personality is so terrible that nobody can stand to be around you. And you have to fix it, or otherwise you can't work here. And I remember leaving his office just like crying, trying so hard not to cry in front of him because I didn't want him to know that he had affected me. But going home and, calling my mom and saying, like, how do I fix my personality? How do I change it? And she's like, I don't know. I've never done that before. And of course, after, spending a year working with this guy, I finally was able to go to a counselor and was diagnosed with depression and anxiety and an eating disorder, which was my way of coping with depression and anxiety. And it was just sort of like super ironic for me because here I'm in this place that is supposed to be every single thing that I wanted. I'm going to the racetrack, doing what I love. I'm making more money than I've ever made. I'm living in this beautiful, amazing place. And I'm so incredibly unhappy. Like, all of the things that I thought would make me happy didn't make me happy at all. And so I started looking for answers. And that was how I found out my personality type. And that got me started on this journey of, why am I the way that I am? And I found my personality type and I got all of this understanding. But there was still more that I needed to know because even though I understood now, I'm an introvert, I'm intuitive, I make decisions in a certain way, I have all of these deep feelings, but that doesn't fix the depression. And that doesn't tell me what my purpose in life is. I always knew that I wanted to do something more than what all of my friends were doing. They all got married and had kids and did this typical white picket fence 9 to 5 thing. And I wanted to do that, but I also knew that I wanted something more. I felt like I was supposed to do something big and something meaningful. And I knew that I wanted to help people because I had these jobs that were just like, it doesn't matter if I do this work or if somebody else does it. It doesn't really make a difference. Right? So I want to do something that does make a difference, and I want to do something that does help people. So that's why I started my blog and my Instagram account, What is INFJ Woman? And then a few months later, probably 6 or 7 months later, I started my podcast. And it's been this incredible practice and confidence for me because it was like, I learned my personality type and I became confident in the fact that I'm not like everybody else. I'm different, and that's okay. I don't need to be like everybody else, right? Even though my boss had told me that I needed to be different. Thankfully, I got away from him and found I found people who appreciate me for the way that I am. But that was only part of the process. There was this second part that's like, okay, I need to have more confidence now. So how do I do that? And I remember so so many conversations I used to have with my mom. Every time it came to like looking for a new job, which I've looked for a lot of jobs in my life. Every time we had this conversation about dating, and a lot of other things too, and making friends was a big one because I've never really had a lot of friends. And she would always say to me, the problem is that you don't have enough confidence. And she said it to me so many times that I got to the point where I would be like, yes, that is exactly the problem. How do I fix it? And she would go, I don't know. I've never had that problem before, so I don't know how to fix it. And I'm like, well, well, that's not helpful. Like, you're identifying the problem for me, which is great, but I don't know how to fix it. So, like, what do I do? So once I found out my personality type, that was like the second piece. That's like, okay, I have all this understanding. Now, how do I get confidence? And I kind of thought that confidence was like I had the same idea about confidence as I did about self-love. Like it was something that some people had and some people just didn't have. And if you didn't have it, you were one of the unlucky people, you know? Like some people have brown eyes and some people have green eyes. And for some reason, everybody wants blue eyes. And if you were like me and you got stuck with green eyes, it's like, oh, I just wasn't lucky. Like I really wanted the blue eyes, but I got green eyes, you know? So like some people had confidence and some people didn't have confidence. And if you didn't, you were just stuck with that. But I realized that's not it at all, that you can learn confidence. And since I started my Instagram account, my blog, the last 3 years have been like this massive immersion into this practice of learning confidence. And it's been like this self-healing journey. And it's just been so amazing. It feels like that magic that we were talking about in the beginning, that transformation. So it's not just about your personality. That's only the first step. That's just the beginning. So going back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, we live in this culture that tells us a lot of lies, right? Like you have to be popular to be worth anything. You have to have a bunch of friends. And now in the age of social media, you know, you have to have tons of followers. You have to have people commenting and liking on your stuff. Otherwise, you're not worth anything, right? You have to be successful. And a lot of times it's like you need to be yourself, but as long as it's like everybody else. Like you can only be yourself as long as you're like acceptable. It's within a certain box or within a certain bound, you know, like be different, but don't be like too different. Don't be different like that. Be different like this. And you're only good, quote unquote good, if you're like everyone else. You're only acceptable if you're like everyone else. There's this movement recently in the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 years maybe, about body positivity, right? You're not supposed to shame people for being overweight now. You're supposed to appreciate people the way that they are. And I feel like that's a great thing, obviously, because I've recently been shamed quite a bit on social media for being overweight. I was told that I'm not an INFJ because INFJs are into perfectionism, and perfectionism means that you're thin, and if you're not thin, then you're not into perfectionism, and so therefore you can't be an INFJ. And I was like, what kind of reasoning is that? Obviously you don't understand that some people are different, and it's like not, perfectionism doesn't always focus on what you eat. But I wish that we could expand that positivity movement into personality types too. because it feels like it's not quite there yet. And maybe that's part of my work, is that, you know, it's my job to tell everybody that it's totally fine to be the way that you are. It's completely fine to have like two friends. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you because you only want two friends. It's completely fine to want to read all weekend rather than go out and do something. I have 7 books sitting on my couch right here next to me, and that's my weekend. I just spoke to my parents last night. They called me and they were like, "What did you do this weekend?" And they had a whole list of stuff that they did, and I was like, I went to the beach for a couple of hours and I read this book, and oh, this book is so awesome." And they're like, "You read a book? Really? That's what you did this weekend?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was a great weekend." It was great, but why is it a problem to read a book, but like going out and hanging out with people isn't a problem? That doesn't make sense to me. Um, I really want to be a part of this movement that's like, it's totally fine to be you, right? It's fine if you process feelings differently. It's okay if you feel things, if you just know things without knowing them. That's totally fine. There are people out there that are like you that do the same thing. It's fine if you organize your thoughts differently. Um, if you think if you think different than other people think, that should be something that's celebrated. I think about Apple used to have this commercial um, that said "Think different," and I wish that more people bought into that. It was back when like Steve Jobs was bringing Apple into being this really popular thing, and he hired this marketing company that totally transformed their marketing, and that's why they became so special, is because they had this message of think different. Like, you don't have to be like everybody else. It's totally fine if you're completely different. I wish it was still the same way. But that's why this space here, that's why I want to create this space that's a safe space for us to be different, for us to raise our hands and say, "You know what? I read a book this weekend and it was the best weekend that I've had in a long time," and that's totally fine. So, what happens when you have all of these messages from the world? When you're told all of these things when you're young and you start to believe that there's something wrong with you. And then you get all of these messages throughout your life that reinforce these things that you already believe. There's this voice in your head that says, "You're not enough. You're not good enough. You can't do the things that you want to do. It's not okay to just be you. You need to be somebody different." And sometimes that voice even says things like, "You can't be happy." All of these things were voices that I have in my head. You're not enough. Like, everything comes back to you're not enough. You're not skinny enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not outgoing enough. You're not bubbly enough. You're not funny enough. All of those things. It's just like this constant voice that's just over and over again. When we started, I told you that 95% of what you do every single day is a habit. It's also true that 95% of what you think is a habit, right? So if you have this habit of saying, "I'm not enough," and you repeat it to yourself every single day, and it comes up every single day, it's an unconscious thing, right? It's not like you're actively thinking, "I'm not enough." You might be thinking, "I want to do this thing. I want to start a blog. I want to start a podcast. I want a new job. I want to start dating. Maybe I want to move to a different city." Whatever this thing is that you want to do, you know, you're trying to like think positive and believe these new thoughts, but there's always this voice in the back of your head that's saying, "You're not enough. You can't do that. That's not going to work." Because 95% of what you think is habit, your body actually has these habits as well. So your body responds to your thoughts. And I'll explain to you how this works. So a lot of the thoughts that we think are tied to chemical reactions in your body, right? So you feel bad one day and you eat chocolate, and chocolate has like caffeine, and it has sugar in it, and it has fat in it. So chocolate, when you eat it, it produces this reaction in your body and it makes you feel better. It's a temporary feeling, right? But it does make you feel better. So you feel bad, you eat the chocolate, you feel better. And then you feel bad again the next day and you're like, well, I want to feel better. And so you find some more chocolate and you eat the chocolate and you feel better. And the more that you do this, you become addicted to it. You become addicted not only to chocolate, I mean, chocolate's just a part of it, right? Really, you become addicted to the feeling of feeling better. You become addicted to that chemical reaction that happens in your body that says, hey, chocolate makes you feel better. And so the next time that you feel bad, you want that feeling of feeling better. And so not only is your mind addicted to chocolate, but your body is actually addicted to it too. And this doesn't just happen with good feelings. This is the part that's really difficult to think about. It's not just chocolate, right? There could be something else. It could be coffee. It could be anything that produces a chemical reaction. It could also be that you're addicted to other things that make you feel good. When I was growing up, I was the good little girl in school. And I felt seen and heard and happy when somebody recognized me for doing something good. And so if I did really good on a test or on an assignment in school, and the teacher would say, hey, that's really good, you did awesome. Then it was like, oh, I want to do good on everything. Like, I like that feeling. I like being recognized. And so then I became like the straight A student who was the teacher's pet because I wanted that recognition. It was like I was addicted to that feeling of that recognition. But then there's also other things that happen, right? When we're growing up, a lot of us come from probably what we would call happy households, right? My family is pretty normal. There wasn't anything massively bad that went on. But my sister, both of my sisters really, but definitely my older sister, she's very much self-centered. And when we were young, she would scream and yell and throw huge fits. And that was her way of being the center of attention. And so anytime there was a problem, she would scream and yell and throw a huge fit. And my reaction was like panic. And it was like, you get that fight or flight response. And I just didn't want to be there. I wanted to like leave. I learned later that if I did certain things, she could calm down, right? She just wanted to feel seen and heard. And as long as I sat there and listened to her, then she would calm down and everything would be fine. Later on in my life, I realized that a lot of my friends did the same thing. They would scream and yell and throw huge fits because they wanted to be seen and heard. And even though it wasn't a good feeling for me, even though I had this panicked reaction and I knew I didn't like it, it was normal for me to be around people like that. It was like my body was addicted to those feelings, that adrenaline rush, even though it wasn't a good feeling. So a lot of times we, as INFJs, we say that we are magnets for toxic people in our lives. It's not that we're magnets, it's that a lot of us allow them to stay. And a lot of it comes from the fact that we've had somebody who was influential in our lives at a young age, and they've acted the same way. And even though it's not a good feeling for us, it's normal. It's what we're used to. And so when you're used to somebody acting like that and the people around you are quiet and calm and peaceful, you don't think this is great. You think something's wrong. Somebody's supposed to be screaming and yelling. And so it can't be okay that nobody is screaming and yelling. So you become like addicted to that feeling, and you are attracted to people who act that way because your body is telling you this is normal, even though it's not really normal. It's just what you're used to, right? So the question is, how do you break those reactions? How do you retrain your body to say that's not normal? We don't need chocolate to feel good. We don't need to be around people who make us anxious and feeling like we need to like bolt from the situation, right? How do you change something like that? Something that's so ingrained that you've learned when you were young, and you've just done this your whole life. Type a 1 in the chat if any of this makes sense to you, if any of it sounds familiar, if you feel like maybe you've been addicted to some type of chemical reaction, whether it's things like chocolate or coffee. I have my mug here. I don't know if you can see it. It says fortune teller, which I think is so incredibly awesome and cute. Yeah, so how do you change those things, right? There are 3 steps that are incredibly important to breaking these habits, these reactions that really become habits, right? That keep you feeling stuck, that keep you feeling like you can't change. The first thing is to recognize the habit. So many of us don't even recognize it. It's something that we do, and we don't even know that we're doing it. You may recognize that, like, hey, I want to stop eating chocolate. You may know, like, chocolate isn't good for me. I'd like to stop eating it. But then you still feel that pull to go buy it. You still want it. It still feels like it controls you. But just recognizing the habit will actually break some of the hold that it has on you. Witnessing it. Not being focused on change right away, but just being open to noticing what's going on. We call it witnessing it, right? Just noticing what's happening. So that's step 1. Just being open to noticing it, seeing what's going on, recognizing it. And step 2 is to change the way that you think. Now, this one is, I say it like it's something like super easy, right? You can just change the way that you think. A lot of people say, fake it till you make it, which I don't believe in at all. I think that's the worst possible advice that you can give somebody. But changing the way that you think is also about willingness. It's about being open to change. So you start with witnessing what needs to change, right? You start with seeing it, with recognizing it in the moment. And then you go through this process where you just think, I'm open to change. A lot of times when we think about change, we think about we want to make a change. One of the changes that I've been focusing on a lot is I want to lose weight, obviously. And every time I think about losing weight, I get anxious, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's hard. It's gross. I have to change the way that I eat, which is exhausting. It's not going to be fun. It's just going to be torture, right? And so when you think that, it's like you're closing yourself off to that change. And it's called resistance. You're just resisting with all of your thoughts, and even your body is having this like reaction, because I have anxiety, right? So I can feel it in my body. I can feel like things getting tight and it's harder to breathe. And I'm just like, ugh, I just want to close up into myself, right? But when you're open to change, you're not focused on making all the changes. You're not saying, today is the day I'm getting started. You're saying, today I'm going to be open to change. I'm not going to resist the change. I'm going to notice the resistance, but I'm just going to practice being open. I'm going to say, it's okay to change. This is actually a good thing that we're going to change. And it helps a lot if you add the words, what if, right? So when you say, I'm going on a diet today, or I'm going to look for a new job today, whatever the changes that you want to make, you start feeling all that pushback and you get all the back talk in your head of, you've tried to look for a job and it doesn't work. Nobody wants to hire you. You've tried to you've tried to change the way that you eat 1,000 times and it doesn't work, right? You get all that back talk. So a great way to stop the back talk is to say, what if? What if I look for a new job today? What if I started changing the way that I eat today? That quiets a lot of that back talk down. And it helps you to just be open to the change, to start thinking about it. And being open is the way that you're going to move through the resistance and move into the change. Some great, amazing, wonderful ways to really change the way that you think and to change it quickly is meditation. I really wasn't certain what meditation was. I'd heard before a couple months ago, I started meditating a couple months ago. I had heard that it was like you just sit down and you clear your mind and you don't think about anything. And I'm like, I can't do that for like 10 seconds, let alone 10 minutes. That's that's really a thing. I didn't think, like, who can do that, especially somebody who has anxiety. I could never do that. But I realized that there are guided meditations that have been life-changing for me in just 2 months. One of them I've spoken about a little bit. It's like a positive affirmations. So you just listen to like 10 minutes in the morning of positive affirmations. One of them is gratitudes. The gratitudes one has helped me so much. The positive affirmations one thing, the ones that I use are by Gabby Bernstein, and during the 10 minutes, she says certain things that I didn't know that I needed to hear until I heard them. One of the things that she says is, I am safe. And I didn't realize that that would have such a huge effect on me. It's like, why did I not know that I needed to hear that? If I would have heard that 5 years ago, maybe my anxiety wouldn't have spiraled out of control. She says things like, I am safe. Today is a good day. What else did she say? There was something else that was like super impactful. She says things like, it's okay to be happy today. She talks a lot about willingness and openness, which it makes a huge difference. And what happens is you hear those things over and over again, and then they start to play in your mind at important times, right? So there are a lot of times when I have anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and they always seem to come at the most inconvenient times. When I'm around a bunch of people and I have to do something that's important. And I've noticed in the last 2 months that when that happens, when my mind starts to like try to take over my body with panic, those things in the meditation start to play in my head like, I am safe. It's okay for me to feel okay right now. It doesn't have to, I don't have to descend into panic. And all of those things, they just play over and over again. And it's amazing how it changes so quickly. It's like the things that you've needed to hear. That really, I mean, meditation will definitely change your life. And it's one of the fastest ways to change what you think. It's the fastest way that I've ever come across. So number 1 is recognize your habit. Number 2 is change the way that you think. And number 3 is also equally important. Number 3 is make a small commitment to yourself every single day. This will help you rebuild your trust in yourself. And this small commitment could be something just like really simple, like drink a glass of water as soon as you get up. Commit to 10 minutes of meditation every day. Spend 5 minutes journaling at the end of the day. Just something that you're not going to break that commitment. We spend a lot of times in our lives telling ourselves, I'm going to do something, or I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to let my boss talk to me like that anymore. I'm not going to let my sister freak out and act like it's my job to take care of her. All these things, right? And then you get into that situation and you just do the same thing that you've always done. And what that does is that breaks the trust that you have in yourself. And so in order to restore that trust, you have to make a commitment to yourself and keep that commitment. You have to prove to yourself that you can trust yourself, that you can say, I'm going to drink a glass of water every single morning as soon as I get out of bed, and you're going to do it. And that small commitment, again, that'll be just like meditation. It'll change the way that you think so much. And it will help you restore some of your confidence again. All right, so that's what we're doing today. Those are the three steps to breaking your habits that keep you feeling stuck. They're small things, and they probably seem like super inconsequential, but I'm telling you, these 3 things have seriously changed my life, and even just in the past 2 months, it's been a huge difference. One of my friends told me not too long ago, she said to me, "You are fearless." And I was like, "What? Like me? I'm not fearless. I'm one of those people who has a problem with being codependent. I'm one of those people who doesn't know how to love themselves." And she's like, "No, I think you've changed a lot. You have like so much confidence and you're so fearless." And I'm like, "Wow, okay." Well, that's a new thing. It's like I have to relearn myself again because I'm changing so fast that I don't even recognize the change. And I'm so excited to be able to share all of that with you and to help you to change as well. So a couple of things before we go, because I know we're almost at an hour and I don't want to keep you guys forever. Again, we're going to be back here every single day at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And there is going to be homework posted in the group every single day. And if you do the homework, which is there's like 2 or 3 questions every single day, and if you post your homework in the comment, it's like a graphic that you'll see, and I'm going to email it to you as well, the direct link. So if you post a comment, you'll be entered to win a prize every single day, and there's a picture of the prize along with the comment. There are some of my favorite mugs, not this one specifically because I had to like do something special to get this one. It costs way too much money. But I have some journals and a card deck, and some other things that I'm giving away. So make sure that you do your homework. The replays will be available as soon as I can get them uploaded. They're going to be available in the group. They'll be available right away, but they're also going to be on YouTube as well. And then there's a special page that I'm going to email you as well that they will be available in. If you have any questions whatsoever, please reach out to me. You can find me in the group. You can send me a message. You can send me a message on Instagram if you want to. You can certainly find me if you have any questions. And I feel like there was something else that I was going to tell you, but I totally forgot what it is. So I guess I'll post it in the group if I remember, or I'll tell you tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope I will see every single one of you again tomorrow.